Adeyemi sat in the hard plastic chair next to her mother-in-law's hospital bed, watching the old woman's chest rise and fall slowly. The room was cold and quiet except for the soft beeping of the machine that tracked Mama Akojua's heartbeat. Outside the window, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. But Adeyemi did not notice the beautiful sunset. Her mind was too full of worry and confusion to see anything good. She had received the phone call just 5 hours ago. Kofi, her husband, had called from Kumasi where he was on a business trip. His voice was shaking and scared. He told her that his mother, Mama Akojua, had suffered a stroke that morning. She had fallen in her garden while watering her plants. A neighbor had found her and called for help. Now she was here at the Korolbu Teaching Hospital in Accra, and the doctors were not sure if she would survive. Kofi had asked Adeyemi to go to the hospital immediately. He said he would try to drive back from Kumasi, but it would take at least 2 hours. He begged his wife to stay with his mother until he could get there. Adeyemi had wanted to say no. She wanted to tell her husband that she was tired, that she had the children to care for, that Mama Akojua had never treated her with kindness or respect. But she knew what duty meant. She knew what was expected of a good wife. So she had asked her neighbor to watch the children, and she had rushed to the hospital. Now, sitting in this cold room with the sound of machines beeping around her, Adeyemi felt many different emotions mixing together in her heart. There was worry for Mama Akojua. There was sadness that the old woman lay unconscious and helpless. But there was also anger and resentment. For 12 years, Mama Akojua had made Adeyemi's life difficult with her constant criticism and judgment. Adeyemi remembered all the harsh words. She remembered the day she had prepared a special meal for the family, spending hours cooking her best jollof rice and making fresh light soup from tomatoes she had picked herself. When Mama Akojua tasted the food, she had made a face and said it was too salty. She had said that Adeyemi did not know how to cook properly because she was too modern and had forgotten the old ways. Adeyemi remembered how her face had burned with shame in front of her own children. There were so many other memories like this one. When Adeyemi had dressed her daughter in a new school uniform, Mama Akojua had said the skirt was too short and that she was teaching the girl to be shameless. When Adeyemi had sent her son to a private school, Mama Akojua had said she was being too proud and that government schools were good enough for Kofi when he was young. When Adeyemi had tried to start a small business selling cloth and beads in the market, Mama Akojua had told everyone in the family that Adeyemi was neglecting her husband and children to chase money like a man. The criticism never stopped. It came in the morning and in the evening. It came when Mama Akojua visited the house and when she did not visit. Sometimes Kofi would tell his mother to be kind, but Mama Akojua would just laugh and say she was being honest, not mean. She would say that a young wife needed guidance and correction. She would say that her son would be sorry if he did not listen to his mother's wisdom about his wife. Over the years, Adeyemi had learned to hide her hurt feelings. She would smile politely when Mama Akojua criticized her. She would cook the old woman her favorite meals when she came to visit. She would help her with her garden and her household tasks. But in her heart, a wall had been built between them. Adeyemi had stopped trying to win Mama Akojua's love or approval. She had learned that some people could not be pleased and it was a waste of time and energy to try. But now, as Adeyemi sat in the hospital room watching the unconscious old woman, something strange happened in her heart. A memory came to her that she had buried deep. A memory from 10 years ago when she was pregnant with her daughter. The pregnancy had been difficult and painful. The doctors had warned her that there were problems and that she needed to rest completely in bed. Adeyemi had been frightened and sad. She had not known if her baby would be healthy or if she would survive the birth. During that time when everyone else was busy with their own lives, it was Mama Akojua who had come. The old woman had not said much. She had not offered many words of comfort. But she had come to Adeyemi's room every morning and every afternoon. She had brought herbs and medicinal plants that she had grown in her own garden. She had prepared special foods to make the baby strong. She had sat with Adeyemi in the quiet hours of the day and night, keeping her company so that she would not feel so alone and scared. Adeyemi remembered that during one very difficult night, when she could not sleep because of pain and fear, Mama Akojua had held her hand and sung to her. The old woman had sung the same song that her own mother had sung to her when she was young and afraid. Mama Akojua's voice was not beautiful, and the song was old and sad, but it had made Adeyemi feel loved and protected. She had fallen asleep holding the old woman's weathered hand. And then, after the baby was born healthy and beautiful, Mama Akojua had never mentioned those nights again. She had returned to her sharp words and her criticism. Adeyemi had been hurt by this. She had felt that the old woman's kindness had been temporary, like the rain that comes and then disappears. She had decided that Mama Akojua's care had been an accident or a weakness, not a true feeling. So she had buried the memory and had held on to her anger instead. But now, sitting alone in this hospital room, Adeyemi could not hold on to the anger anymore. She looked at Mama Akojua's face, which was now soft and helpless, and she saw something different. She saw not the critical old woman who had made her life hard, but a human being who was struggling and broken in ways that Adeyemi had never tried to understand. Adeyemi reached out and took Mama Akojua's hand in hers. The old woman's skin was thin and paper-like, spotted with the marks of age and time. Adeyemi held it gently, remembering how that same hand had held hers during the frightening night when she was pregnant and afraid. "I am here, Mama," Adeyemi whispered, though she did not know if the old woman could hear her. "I am here with you now. You are not alone." And as the night grew darker and the hospital grew quieter, Adeyemi stayed in that plastic chair, holding her mother-in-law's hand and waiting for her husband to come home. The night hours moved slowly in the hospital room. Adeyemi remained in the plastic chair, still holding Mama Akojua's hand. She had not moved since sunset. The old woman's breathing had become more and more shallow as the hours passed. The machines around the bed beeped and hummed with their steady sounds. A nurse had come in around midnight to check on Mama Akojua. She had looked at the monitors and then at Adeyemi with sad eyes. She did not need to say anything. Adeyemi understood what those eyes meant. The end was coming soon. After the nurse left, Adeyemi was alone again with her mother-in-law. She thought about calling Kofi to tell him to drive faster, but she decided not to. What good would it do? He was already driving as fast as he could on the dark roads from Kumasi. She could not make the road shorter or make the time move faster. So she sat in silence and held the old woman's hand. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, Mama Akojua's breathing changed. It became even more difficult and painful to listen to. Each breath sounded like a struggle. Adeyemi found herself holding her own breath, waiting to see if the next breath would come. She began to count the breaths without meaning to. 1 breath. Then a long pause. Then another breath. The pauses grew longer. The breaths grew weaker. Adeyemi felt tears beginning to run down her face. She was surprised by the tears because she had thought that her heart was too hard and angry to cry for Mama Akojua. But now, sitting in this quiet hospital room in the middle of the night, she could not stop the tears. They came from a place deep inside her that she did not know was still soft. She thought about all the years that had passed. 12 years of marriage. 12 years of harsh words and cold silences. 12 years of trying to be good enough and failing in Mama Akojua's eyes. And now all those years were ending. Mama Akojua would never tell her that her cooking was good. She would never say that she was proud of how Adeyemi raised her children. She would never say, "I was wrong to treat you that way. I'm sorry. I love you." The conversation they needed to have would never happen. The words that needed to be spoken would die with Mama Akojua. Adeyemi felt a deep sadness wash over her. Not just sadness for Mama Akojua's death, but sadness for all the lost chances. All the moments that could have been different. All the love that could have been expressed but never was. At 3 o'clock a doctor came in and checked the machines. He placed his hand on Mama Akojua's shoulder and then looked at Adeyemi. "It will not be long now," he said quietly. "You should stay close to her." Then he left the room, leaving Adeyemi alone again with her dying mother-in-law. Adeyemi moved her chair even closer to the bed. She put her other hand on Mama Akojua's arm. She began to speak even though she knew the old woman could probably not hear her. She spoke about the day Mama Akojua had sat with her during the difficult pregnancy. She spoke about the song the old woman had sung. She spoke about the herbs and the special foods. She spoke about how much that kindness had meant, even though she had buried it under anger and hurt. "I remember," Adeyemi whispered. "I remember when you loved me, Mama. I remember and I am grateful. I am sorry that I let the angry words push away the good memories. I am sorry that I did not ask you why you were so hard on me. I am sorry that I did not try to understand." She did not know if any of this made a difference. She did not know if Mama Akojua could hear her from wherever her mind had gone. But speaking the words felt important. It felt like the only thing she could do. The hours continued to pass. 4 o'clock came. The night was at its darkest. The hospital was very quiet. Most people were asleep in their beds. But Adeyemi was awake watching her mother-in-law die. At 4:45, Mama Akojua's breathing became even more labored. Adeyemi could see the old woman's body struggling to draw air into her lungs. Each breath sounded painful. Adeyemi held her hand tighter and began to pray. She prayed for Mama Akojua's suffering to end. She prayed for peace. She prayed for forgiveness. And then, at 4:47 in the morning, the breathing stopped. Adeyemi felt the exact moment when life left Mama Akojua's body. It was not a dramatic moment. There were no loud sounds or sudden movements. It was simply the moment when the old woman's chest stopped moving. The moment when the struggle ended. The moment when Mama Akojua was gone. The machines made different sounds. Alarms began to beep. But Adeyemi did not move. She sat in her plastic chair and held the hand of her dead mother-in-law. She did not cry out. She did not call for a nurse. She simply sat there, feeling the hand grow colder in hers. She thought about how final death was. How it ended everything. All the chances were gone now. All the conversations that could have happened would never happen. All the understanding that could have come would come too late. Mama Akojua would never know that Adeyemi had finally understood her. She would never know that Adeyemi had forgiven her. She would never know that Adeyemi's heart had softened in this hospital room in the middle of the night. A nurse came in a few minutes later. She saw Adeyemi still holding Mama Akojua's hand and her face became gentle. The nurse did not rush Adeyemi away. She simply said, "I am sorry," and then she left to give Adeyemi a few more moments alone with the body. When Kofi arrived at the hospital 2 hours later, he went directly to his mother's room. He stopped in the doorway when he saw his wife. Adeyemi was still sitting in the plastic chair. She was still holding his mother's hand. Her face was wet with tears and her eyes were empty. She looked like a woman who had been broken and put back together but was not quite the same as before. Kofi made a sound that was like a cry and like a prayer at the same time. He rushed to his mother's bed and held her body. He wept for his mother who was gone. He wept for all the things he had never said to her. He held his mother and cried in a way that seemed like it would never stop. Then he held his wife. He held Adeyemi and she held him, and they cried together for what they had lost and for what they could never get back. By the time the sun rose over Accra, the news had spread to the family. Mama Akojua was dead. The funeral preparations would begin. The house would fill with relatives. The rituals would start. The mourning would become public and organized and loud. But Adeyemi moved through it all like a ghost. She helped with the arrangements. She prepared food. She greeted relatives. She did everything that was expected of her. But something inside her had changed in that hospital room. She felt separate from the world around her, as if she were watching her own life from a distance. She felt the grief, yes, but it was mixed with so many other feelings that she could not name them all. She felt regret and guilt and sadness and also, strangely, a kind of peace that she did not understand. She was alone in her grief in a way that no one else was, because she was the only one who knew what had happened in that hospital room. She was the only one who had heard Mama Akojua's final breaths. She was the only one who held the old woman's hand when she died. And she would carry that memory with her for the rest of her life. 2 days after Mama Akojua's funeral, Adeyemi found herself in the old woman's small house in the OSU neighborhood. The house was quiet and empty except for Kofi's younger sister, Amma, who was helping to sort through Mama Akojua's things. The family had decided that Adeyemi and Amma would organize the belongings. Some things would be given to relatives who wanted them. Some things would be sold. Some things would be given to people in need. Adeyemi moved slowly through the rooms, touching objects that Mama Akojua had touched for so many years. There was a wooden chair where the old woman liked to sit in the evenings. There was a worn cooking pot that had made countless meals. There were photographs on the wall showing Mama Akojua when she was young, with a man who must have been her husband, and then later with her children. Adeyemi had never really looked at these photographs before. She had never asked Mama Akojua about her life. In the bedroom, Adeyemi began to fold clothes and organize them into piles. Amma was in the kitchen looking through old pots and pans. Adeyemi worked slowly, trying not to think too much about what she was doing. It was strange to handle Mama Akojua's clothes, to see the sizes and styles that the old woman had worn. It made Mama Akojua seem more real somehow, more human, as if Adeyemi was only now beginning to see her as a person and not just as the critical mother-in-law. As Adeyemi was folding a thick shawl, she noticed something underneath the mattress of Mama Akojua's bed. She reached under and pulled out an old envelope. It was yellowed with age and the paper was soft and worn. On the front, in handwriting that was shaky but careful, was written, "For Adeyemi." Adeyemi's heart began to beat faster. She looked toward the kitchen to see if Amma had noticed, but her sister-in-law was still busy. Adeyemi sat on the edge of the bed and held the envelope in her hands. She was almost afraid to open it. Something inside her told her that this letter would change something, that opening it would mean facing something she was not ready to face. But she opened it anyway. Inside was a letter written on several pages of paper. The handwriting was the same shaky script as the envelope. Adeyemi could see that it had been written by an old hand, but also by a hand that was trying very hard to write carefully and clearly. The letter was dated 3 years ago. 3 years. Mama Akojua had written this letter 3 years ago and hidden it under her mattress. Adeyemi began to read. My dear daughter, the letter began. I am writing this letter because I do not know how to speak these words with my mouth. My pride is too strong. My shame is too deep. So I am writing them here, and I hope that one day you will read them and understand. Adeyemi's eyes filled with tears before she had even read very far. She continued reading. I know that I have been a difficult woman. I know that I have said harsh things to you. I know that I have criticized your cooking, your children, your clothes, your ways. I know that you have tried to be a good wife to my son, and I have not thanked you. I have not appreciated you. Instead, I have made your life harder. Adeyemi had to stop reading for a moment. She could not see the words through her tears. She sat on the bed and tried to breathe. The truth is, the letter continued, that my harshness has nothing to do with you. You have done nothing wrong. You're a good woman. You are a good wife to Kofi. You are a good mother to your children. But I have not been able to tell you these things because I am broken inside. My own life has been hard, and I have let that hardness make me into a hard woman. The letter went on to describe Mama Akojua's marriage to Kofi's father. It described a man who had been unfaithful and unkind. It described years of waiting for him to come home late at night, smelling of other women's perfume. It described the pain of discovering that her husband did not love her, that he had married her only because their families had arranged it. It described the loneliness of a woman who had to pretend to be strong and perfect in front of everyone, even though her heart was breaking. When I looked at you, Mama Akojua had written, I saw a woman who was brave and independent in ways that I never was. I saw a woman who could speak her mind and make her own choices. I saw a woman who was not afraid of her husband, who did not accept his criticism without question. And instead of being happy for you, instead of being glad that you had the strength I did not have, I was afraid. I was jealous. I told myself that you were disrespectful and modern and forgetting our ways. But really, I was afraid that your strength would change my son, would make him less willing to obey his mother as I had taught him. Adeyemi put the letter down for a moment. She stood up and went to the window. Outside, she could see the street where Mama Akojua's neighbors were going about their daily lives. A woman was selling oranges. A man was fixing a bicycle. Children were playing. Everything looked normal and ordinary, but nothing felt ordinary to Adeyemi anymore. She returned to the bed and picked up the letter again. I have watched you for 12 years, Mama Akojua had written. I have watched how you handle your children with patience and firmness. I have watched how you manage your household with intelligence and care. I have watched how you treat my son with respect and love, even when he does not deserve it. I have watched all of this and I have been proud of you. Yes, proud. But I have not known how to show you this pride. I have not known how to say the words. So instead, I have continued to criticize. It is the only language I know. The letter explained that Mama Akojua had wanted to speak to Adeyemi, to tell her these things, but she had been afraid. She had been planning to do it after she recovered from an illness the year before. But she had kept putting it off. Days had become weeks. Weeks had become months. And before she knew it, 3 years had passed, and she still had not found the courage to speak. I am an old woman now, Mama Akojua had written near the end of the letter. My body is tired. My heart is tired. And I do not know how much time I have left in this world. So I am writing this letter as my confession and my apology. I am asking you, my daughter, to forgive me. Not for my sake but for yours. Do not let my hardness make your heart hard. Do not let my mistakes teach you to be cold. Be warm. Be kind. Be brave. Be all the things that I was too afraid to be. The letter ended with these words, I love you, Adeyemi. I have always loved you. I simply did not know how to show it. Your mother-in-law who is sorry, Mama Akojua. Adeyemi sat on the bed in the quiet house and read the letter 3 times. Each time she cried harder than before. She cried because Mama Akojua was dead and would never know that Adeyemi had finally understood her. She cried because 12 years had been wasted in coldness and misunderstanding. She cried because she had misjudged Mama Akojua, had believed that the old woman was simply cruel, when really she had been broken and afraid. But she also cried because of something else. She cried because in this letter, Mama Akojua had finally said the things that Adeyemi had always needed to hear. I am proud of you. You are a good woman. You are brave. I love you. Amma found Adeyemi sitting on the bed, the letter in her lap, tears streaming down her face. Amma sat down next to her sister-in-law and asked what was wrong. Adeyemi handed her the letter without speaking. Amma read it and soon she was crying too. "I did not know Mama felt this way," Amma whispered. "Neither did I," Adeyemi said. "But she did. She did all along." And as the afternoon light came through the windows of the old woman's bedroom, Adeyemi sat in darkness inside her heart, sobbing with grief and compassion mixed together, finally understanding the mother-in-law who had haunted her marriage, finally knowing that Mama Akojua had been a broken woman trying her best, finally able to forgive. That evening, when Kofi came home from work, Adeyemi was waiting for him in their living room. She had the letter in her hands. Her eyes were red from crying and she looked tired and sad. Kofi immediately knew that something important had happened. He sat down next to his wife and waited for her to speak. Adeyemi handed him the letter without saying anything. She watched his face as he read it. First there was confusion on his face, then shock, then sadness, then something else that looked like understanding beginning to break through. When he finished reading, he looked at his wife with tears in his eyes. "I did not know she felt this way," he said quietly. "All these years I did not know." "Neither did I," Adeyemi replied. "But she did. She has been carrying this pain for so long, Kofi. And we never knew. We never even tried to understand." Kofi read the letter again more slowly this time. When he finished, he held it to his chest like it was something precious and fragile. He thought about his childhood, about his mother's sharp words and strict discipline. He thought about how she had always seemed angry, always critical. He had accepted this as her nature. He had never questioned it. He had never asked why she was the way she was. "We should go back to her house," Kofi said. "We should look for more. If she wrote this letter, maybe she wrote other things. Maybe there are more journals or papers that can help us understand." The next morning, Adeyemi and Kofi went to Mama Akojua's house together. They began to search more carefully through her belongings. In a wooden box under the bed they found something extraordinary. They found journals. Many journals. Some were old, with pages that were yellowed and fragile. Some were newer, with pages that still looked fresh. The journals dated back many years, at least 20 years or more. Adeyemi opened one of the oldest journals and began to read. The handwriting was younger and stronger in these earlier pages. In one entry from 20 years ago, Mama Akojua had written about the day her husband came home smelling of another woman's perfume. She had written about how her heart had broken in that moment, and how she did not know what to do. She had written, "I am a wife, but I am not a woman he loves. I am a mother, but I do not know how to be a good mother when my own heart is so broken." In another entry from 15 years ago, Mama Akojua had written about Kofi's wedding day. She had written, "Today my son married Adeyemi. She is a beautiful girl, strong and intelligent. I am afraid for her. I am afraid because I see in her the strength that I never had. I am afraid that Kofi will hurt her the way my husband hurt me. I am afraid and so I am angry. I do not know how to be any other way." Adeyemi and Kofi sat on the floor of Mama Akojua's bedroom, reading these journals together. As they read, they began to understand their mother and wife in a completely new way. They saw her pain. They saw her struggle. They saw her attempts to change and be better. One entry from 5 years ago said, "Today I was harsh with Adeyemi again. I told her that her cooking was not good. But it was delicious. I know it was delicious. Why do I say these cruel things? Why can I not tell her that I am proud of her? Pride. Pride is what keeps me silent. Pride and fear. God help me to be better." Another entry from 3 years ago, written just after she had hidden the letter, said, "I have written the letter. I have finally written down all the things I cannot say with my mouth. I do not know if I will have the courage to give it to her. I do not know if I will ever be brave enough to speak these words aloud. But at least they are written. At least the truth is here, somewhere, waiting to be found." The most recent entry was from just 2 weeks before Mama Akojua's stroke. It said, "I am old now. I do not have much time left. I must tell them. I must tell Adeyemi and Kofi and all my children. They must know that I love them. They must know that my harshness came from my own pain, not from my heart. I will do it. I will find the courage. I will tell them soon." But soon had never come. Mama Akojua had suffered her stroke before she could find the courage to speak. Kofi called his siblings and asked them to come to their mother's house. By evening, all of Mama Akojua's children were there. Kofi, Amma, Kwame, and Young Ya. Adeyemi made tea and arranged chairs in the living room. Kofi held the letter and the journals in his hands. "Mother left us something," Kofi said. "She left us words. She left us her heart, written on paper." He began to read the letter aloud to his siblings. As he read, he could see the shock and sadness on their faces. Amma wept openly. Kwame sat very still, staring at nothing. Ya, the youngest, looked confused and hurt, as if hearing that his mother had suffered and kept it hidden made him realize that he had never really known her at all. When Kofi finished reading the letter, he began to read passages from the journals. He read about her pain. He read about her fear. He read about her attempts to be better. He read about her love for each of them, hidden beneath layers of criticism and coldness. Then Adeyemi stood up and held the shaky script letter in her hands. I was the only one who held her hand when she died, Adeyemi said quietly. And I want to read this letter to all of you. I want you to hear her voice even though she is gone. I want you to know what she wanted you to know. Adeyemi read the letter with a clear voice, though tears rolled down her face as she read. She read about Mama Akojua's broken marriage. She read about how the old woman had seen strength in Adeyemi that frightened her. She read about Mama Akojua's pride and her shame. She read about the love that had always been there, hidden and unspoken. By the time Adeyemi finished reading, the room was full of tears and sobs. Kofi held his head in his hands. Amma covered her mouth with her hand. Kwame's shoulders shook as he cried. Even young Ya, who had been so angry at his mother for so many years, wept for the woman he had never truly known. They sat together in silence for a long time after Adeyemi finished reading. No one knew what to say. The words had all been said. The truth had finally come out. And it was too late to tell Mama Akojua that they understood. It was too late to say that they forgave her. It was too late to say that they loved her, not despite her pain but because of her pain, because she had carried it alone for so many years. Finally, Kofi spoke. She was broken, he said. And we never knew. We never tried to understand. We only knew her hardness. We never saw the person underneath. We see her now, Adeyemi said. Maybe it is too late but we see her now. And we can honor what she has taught us. What has she taught us? Amma asked. Adeyemi thought for a moment. She has taught us that pain can make us cruel if we let it. She has taught us that silence can hurt people we love. She has taught us that it is never too late to try to change even if we fail. And most of all, she has taught us that love spoken is better than love hidden. The family began to talk then, really talk for perhaps the first time. They shared their own stories of Mama Akojua. They remembered moments of kindness that had seemed small at the time but now seemed large and important. They cried together. They held each other. They wept not in the cold silence of private grief, but in the warmth of shared understanding and shared healing. And as they sat in Mama Akojua's house, surrounded by the old woman's journals and letters and the evidence of her long struggle to be a better person, they began the slow process of forgiving her. Not because she had asked for forgiveness but because now they understood. And understanding, they discovered, was the first step toward healing. 6 months had passed since Mama Akojua's death. The house was quiet now in the way that houses become quiet after grief has settled into the everyday life of a family. Adeyemi stood in her kitchen on a full moon evening, looking at a calendar on the wall. She had marked this day with a circle in red pen. Tonight was the first night of a new tradition that she wanted to begin. She had been thinking about this for weeks. Mama Akojua's letter had changed something deep inside her. It had shown her how dangerous silence could be, how important it was to speak the things that mattered before it was too late. And she had decided that her family would not make the same mistakes. Her family would not wait until someone was dead to say the words that needed to be said. Adeyemi had prepared the living room for this special evening. She had lit candles and placed them on the table. She had made a special drink from ginger and honey. She had arranged chairs in a circle. Her husband Kofi knew what was happening, and he had agreed to help. Her children, Amma and Kwesi, did not yet know what tonight would bring, but they sensed that something important was about to happen. When the family had gathered and Adeyemi explained her idea, there was silence at first. She told them about how Mama Akojua had written her letter in secret, hiding it under the mattress for 3 years. She told them about how the old woman had wanted to speak but had been afraid. She told them that she did not want this to happen to their family. She did not want anyone to die with words still stuck in their throat. So I want to start a new tradition, Adeyemi said. Every full moon we will gather together. And each of us will write a letter to someone in this family. The letter should say the things we feel but do not always say. It can say thank you. It can say I am sorry. It can say I am proud of you. It can say I love you. Anything that is true and important. Kofi smiled and squeezed his wife's hand. That is a beautiful idea, he said. Young Amma, who was 10 years old, asked, What if I do not know what to write? Then write what is in your heart, Adeyemi said. There is no right or wrong way to do this. Just write the truth. That first night, they each sat with pen and paper. Kofi wrote a letter to his children, apologizing for all the times he had been too busy with work to really listen to them. He wrote about how he regretted that he had not told them enough times how proud he was of them. He wrote about how he was going to change and how he hoped they would help him be a better father. Adeyemi wrote to Kofi. She wrote about how much she loved him and how grateful she was for the way he had held her the night his mother died. She wrote about how she wanted them to grow old together and talk about everything, not hide things inside until it was too late. Young Amma wrote to her father, telling him that she loved him even when he was busy. She wrote about her dreams and her fears in the simple, honest way that children write. Kwesi, who was 12, wrote a letter to his mother, thanking her for all the meals she made and apologizing for being rude sometimes. That night, they read their letters aloud to each other. There were tears, but they were good tears. There was laughter and warmth. There was the feeling of being truly seen and truly loved. By the time the evening ended, the family felt closer than they had felt in a long time. The tradition continued. Every full moon the family gathered. Every full moon they wrote letters and read them aloud. Sometimes the letters were serious. Sometimes they were funny. Sometimes they apologized for arguments. Sometimes they celebrated small victories. But always they spoke the truth of their hearts. As years passed, the tradition grew. When Kofi's siblings heard about what Adeyemi had started, they wanted to do it in their own families too. Amma taught her children this tradition. Kwame taught his family. Even young Ya, who had moved to another city, would write letters to send to his family on the full moon, and they would read his words aloud even though he was far away. The tradition meant that secrets did not stay hidden. It meant that when someone was angry they could say it in a letter and the family could talk about it. It meant that when someone was proud of another person, they could say it before it was too late. It meant that love was not a hidden thing in this family. It was spoken. It was written. It was real. Years later, when Amma was a teenager and Kwesi was a young man, the tradition was still going strong. And on one particular full moon evening, Adeyemi decided it was time to teach her daughter something else that Mama Akojua had left behind. In the kitchen, on a warm evening with the sun setting outside the window, Adeyemi stood with her daughter Amma and showed her how to make the light soup that Mama Akojua had loved. She had finally asked Kofi's sister for the recipe years ago. Now she was passing it on. First, you must cut the tomatoes very small, Adeyemi explained, guiding her daughter's hands. Not too big, not too small. Just right. That is what Mama Akojua used to say. Just right. Amma watched carefully as her mother showed her how to add the spices, how to let the soup simmer slowly so that all the flavors could come together. They worked together in the kitchen, and as they worked, Adeyemi began to tell stories. She told her daughter about Mama Akojua. Not just the strict old woman but the whole person. She told her about how the old woman had sat with Adeyemi during her difficult pregnancy. She told her about the song Mama Akojua had sung. She told her about the letter hidden under the mattress for 3 years. Your grandmother was trying, Adeyemi said as they stirred the soup. She was a broken woman trying to become better. She was afraid of showing love, so instead she criticized. She was sad about her own life, so she tried to control everyone else's. But underneath all of that, she loved us. She loved us very much. Amma looked up at her mother. Was she sorry? She asked. Yes, Adeyemi said. She was sorry. She just did not know how to say it out loud. So she wrote it. And that writing, that letter, changed everything. Will you teach me to write letters like that? Amma asked. Honest letters? I am already teaching you, Adeyemi said, smiling. Every full moon we write letters together. And now, by learning to make your grandmother's soup, you are learning something else. You are learning that love can be shown in many ways. In words, yes, but also in actions. In cooking a meal for someone you love. In sitting with them when they are sick. In remembering the recipes that they loved. The soup simmered on the stove, filling the kitchen with a warm and wonderful smell. Adeyemi tasted it and added a little more salt. Perfect, she said. Just right. That is what Mama Akojua would have said. That evening, when the full moon rose over Accra, the family gathered again. But this time, Adeyemi had made Mama Akojua's light soup. When everyone tasted it, they were quiet for a moment. The soup tasted like memory. It tasted like connection. It tasted like a woman who had loved them, even if she had not always known how to show it. Kofi was the first to speak. This tastes like Mama, he said, his voice filled with emotion. I am teaching Amma how to make it, Adeyemi said, so that when I am gone she will know how to make it. And she can teach her children. And they can teach theirs. In this way Mama Akojua stays with us. Her love stays with us. That night when they wrote their letters, Kofi wrote to his mother. He wrote about how much he missed her. He wrote about how grateful he was that she had left them her words. He wrote about how her letter had taught the whole family something important about speaking love out loud. Adeyemi wrote to her daughter, thanking her for learning the soup recipe, for becoming a bridge between Mama Akojua and the future. She wrote about how proud she was of her daughter's kindness and intelligence. She wrote about how she hoped that one day, Amma would teach her own children to make this soup and to tell these stories. As the years continued to pass, the legacy of Mama Akojua lived on. Not in hardness or criticism, but in the words that were spoken every full moon. In the soup that was made and shared. In the stories that were told and retold. In the family that learned to say the things that mattered before it was too late. Adeyemi often thought about that night in the hospital when she had held her mother-in-law's hand as the old woman died. She thought about how much pain and misunderstanding had filled those 12 years of marriage. And she thought about how, through a letter hidden under a mattress, through words finally spoken after death, Mama Akojua had taught them all the most important lesson of all. She was trying. Adeyemi would tell anyone who would listen, whether it was her daughter or a friend or a stranger. Mama Akojua was trying. In her own broken way she was trying to be better. And in the end, trying is what matters most. Trying to love. Trying to understand. Trying to speak the truth before it is too late. And the family continued, generation after generation, learning from Mama Akojua's story. Learning that love should never be hidden. Learning that pain should be understood, not punished. Learning that it is never too late to try to change even if we fail. Learning that in a family, words spoken with honesty and love are the greatest gifts we can give. The soup simmered. The letters were written. The moon rose and set. And the tradition continued, a living monument to a woman who had been broken and afraid, but who, in the end, had left behind something beautiful enough to heal her entire family.